In this lesson, we'll talk about compositing in Photoshop. In Vray, we rendered out the different render elements. And here in Photoshop, we have each of those elements here as a layer. Let's first reassemble the beauty pass by turning on all of these layers except for the RGB, and then selecting all of the layers above lighting, switch the blending mode to linear dodge add. You'll notice this looks a lot like the image you rendered in Vray, the beauty pass, and here we have the RGB. You can turn it on and see that there's no change or no difference. It's the exact same. Having each of these render elements as separate channels means that we can affect them separately. So for example, you can turn off the reflections to get rid of them altogether or turn them back on, but you can also color correct them individually. Let's do that. Click here to add an adjustment layer, and let's add an exposure adjustment layer. Above in the properties, click on this icon here to make sure that the exposure is applied only to the layer immediately beneath it, in this case reflections. Now you can play around with the exposure for just the reflections. In this case, I'll set it a bit higher. And then you can see the impact by hiding just that exposure layer or showing it. Let's add another exposure adjustment layer to the refractions, again making sure to apply it just to the refractions. And for this one, we're going to darken down the outside. Whatever value we choose here for the refractions, let's go ahead and make sure we use the same value to create another exposure layer for the background so we can match that up. Once you're happy with the color corrections you've made to the individual render elements, go up to your top menu and select Image, then under Mode, let's switch this to 8 bits and click Merge. Now of course, you lose some of the power of the 32-bit image, but some new options will become available to us. First, notice that right away the toning of this changed quite a bit. Under Method here in the HDR toning that popped up, let's flip this down to exposure and gamma, and that will match it right back up to where it was when we started. Then go ahead and click OK. Now let's also turn this into a smart object, so right click on that layer and convert to smart object. Then with the layer selected, go up to your top menu where it says Filter and pick Camera Raw Filter. On the right hand side, you'll notice there's a number of properties that you can adjust or filter this image by. I'll click on this Auto button here. It'll automatically adjust a number of the values. Of course, from there, you could decide to slide these a bit more in either direction to your preference. And then when you have something you like, go ahead and click OK. If the filter is too strong, you can double click here and adjust the opacity to your liking. Now lastly, if we want to isolate certain materials for a final color correction pass, we can do that by opening up the Material ID render channel. So let's do that by going up to the File menu, clicking Open, and then navigate to that folder where you have that Interior Night Material ID.exr file, and click Open. We'll need to convert this to an 8-bit file, so I'll go to Image Mode and pick 8 bits, and Merge. I'll switch this back to exposure and gamma, so we have the same colors, and click OK. I'll go ahead and click to drag the layer over to my other composition, and then make sure to position it and snap it to all the edges. Now I can take the magic wand tool and click on one of the colors. For example, the walls here. It'll pick everything there that's interconnected that is that Material ID color. Then I can go ahead and hide this layer. Now my selection is being applied down to the walls here. And I can go down and create a new adjustment layer. I'll add a curves adjustment. And then up here I can edit that curve. And then you can continue to add any other adjustments that you'd like. And then when you're all done, you can save the file as a JPEG.